The Great Barbecue Showdown. It was a perfect Saturday in our quiet suburban neighborhood in Maplewood, Ohio, when the scent of hickory-smoked ribs wafted through my backyard. The sun was high, the new deck gleamed, and my trusty grill was firing on all cylinders. I'd just wrapped up a month-long backyard renovation, and this barbecue was my victory lap, a small gathering of friends and neighbors, cold drinks, and jazz humming through new speakers. But as I flipped a rack of ribs, red and blue lights flashed through my fence. Sirens wailed. My guests froze, sauce dripping from their chins. My neighbor, Linda Harper, had called 911, claiming my barbecue was a public hazard. She thought she'd shut me down. She didn't know the cops stepping out of those squad cars were my high school buddies, and they were already eyeing the ribs. I'm Tom Bradley, a 52-year-old contractor who's lived in Maplewood for a decade. My neighborhood is the kind of place where kids ride bikes and folks wave from porches, but Linda was the exception. She was the self-appointed enforcer of our homeowners association, HOA, a clipboard-wielding tyrant who once measured my mailbox to ensure it met code. She'd reported my Christmas wreath for being too festive past December 31st and sent emails about my dog's excessive tail wagging. That Saturday, as I waved a rib at her in peace, she stormed off, her face sour as a lemon. 10 minutes later, the siren started. When the squad cars pulled up, I braced for trouble. My friend Jerry dropped his beer, and our neighbor Sarah whispered about her cousin's busted college party. Then I heard, "Yo, Tom, you holding out on those ribs?" It was Officer Greg Thompson, my old linebacker teammate, grinning ear to ear. Behind him was Nate Rivera, the guy who once pranked our principal and now wore a badge. They strolled into my yard, fists out for bumps, and asked about my new deck. Linda, watching from across the street with a stack of HOA rules, looked like she'd swallowed a wasp. Greg turned to her, voice calm but firm. "Ma'am, this isn't an emergency. Grilling's legal, and the music's fine." Linda sputtered about smoke and noise, but Nate cut in. "Calling 911 for this could get you fined." Her face went white, and my guests erupted in laughter. The next morning, a letter was taped to my door, an HOA warning about unauthorized gatherings. It was signed by Linda H., compliance chair. I chuckled, but I knew this was just round one. Linda wasn't just a nuisance. She was a one-woman crusade against joy. My neighbor Paul got a warning for his 2 garden flamingos. Another got cited for non-compliant window shades. Linda was targeting anyone who didn't bow to her rulebook. At the next HOA meeting, she droned about smoke disturbances and community unrest, her words sharp but vague. I asked for specific violations. She smirked. "It's about the spirit of the rules." That's when I knew. She was making it up as she went. Things escalated when I caught an HOA lackey snapping photos of my side yard, claiming to check for code violations. My grass, freshly mowed, was deemed too tall. My solar lights, unregistered fixtures. I wasn't mad, he was curious. People like Linda overreach, and that's when they slip. I upgraded my security with cameras and started a file called Operation Grillgate. When my elderly neighbor, Ellen, got a warning for her city-approved rainwater barrel, I'd had enough. Ellen was in tears, shaken by Linda's harassment. This wasn't about rules anymore. It was about power. I met Greg at the precinct, showing him my growing stack of evidence, letters, footage, neighbor testimonies. He shook his head. "She's called us 8 times in 3 months once for a threatening squirrel." Nate suggested I file a complaint with the HOA Ethics Board, but I had a better idea. Linda thrived on fear and silence, so I'd fight her with community and noise. I planned a massive barbecue fundraiser for first responders, called Unity Over Rules. I secured permits, lined up sponsors, a local butcher, a soda company, and invited the mayor's office. The HOA couldn't block it. I dotted every I. Linda tried. At an emergency HOA meeting, she ranted about smoke trauma and fake stats on cookout-related asthma. A board member, Walter, asked for evidence. She had none. My permits held, and her objection was overruled. Her eyes darted like a cornered animal's. The event was a triumph. Neighbors set up tables, kids bounced in an inflatable castle, and Greg and Nate parked their squad cars out front like trophies. The mayor's aide showed up with a reporter, and Grillgate trended locally. Linda marched up, waving papers, accusing us of impersonating law enforcement with our banner. Greg offered her a plate of brisket. She froze, then stormed off. When she called the fire marshal, he showed up, grabbed a burger, and stayed. Linda's retaliation grew desperate. She sent a letter demanding I face an HOA hearing for endangerment and misrepresentation. She included a blurry photo of me grilling, flames circled in red like a crime scene. She spread rumors online, claiming I was misusing HOA funds. I didn't bite. Instead, I knocked on doors, collecting stories. A single mom fined for a swing set, a veteran cited for his flagpole. Then I found gold. Linda had used HOA funds for her private gate, buried as common area maintenance. I sent everything to the state's HOA ethics board. I also printed an anonymous flyer, the truth about Linda, listing her abuses with no insults, just facts. Neighbors started talking. At the next HOA meeting, I presented my case, letters, videos, testimonies, and the ethics probe. The room was packed. When I finished, Walter moved to remove Linda from the board. It passed in a landslide. People clapped not for me, but for freedom. Linda got a city fine for false 911 calls and stepped down under pressure. I took her board seat temporarily, repealed her petty rules, and set up a transparency portal. Linda didn't quit. She filed a mayor's office complaint, accusing me of social hostility with doctored photos. The mayor's aide laughed it off. Then came her lawsuit letter, a bluff with no legal weight. My lawyer neighbor drafted a cease and desist, and we delivered it. Linda went quiet. Her post stopped. Her blind stayed shut. Weeks later, her house sold, and she drove away, defeated. The neighborhood bloomed cleanups, potlucks, kids playing freely. I stepped down from the board, nominating Walter, who won easily. That night, Greg and Nate came over. We sat in my yard, sipping sodas, the grill's faint smoky scent lingering. No one mentioned Linda. Justice wasn't a courtroom or an apology. It was neighbors laughing, kids drawing chalk art, and a street free from fear. Linda's 911 call started a war, but it ended with a community reborn, stronger than ever. What do you think about Linda's actions and the way the neighborhood fought back? Have you faced petty power or injustice in your own life? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's hear your stance on standing up to bullies and building community. Your voice matters.